think it had enormous significance. I mean, Irish teams had waited 18 years to score an away win in European competition, and I think there was a psychological barrier there, that there was just a feeling that teams from this country couldn't go away and perform, you know, even against weak opposition. And, you know, it's been a downward spiral because we haven't been doing well. We've been going down the rankings. Because we've been going down the rankings, we've been playing against weaker opponents. And so we've been playing some, you know, over those 18 years, we've played some pretty awful teams and still managed not to beat them away from home. In some cases, we've progressed on aggregate. We've beaten them well back in Ireland, whatever. But the fact was that even against some poor sides, we hadn't won away from home. So Shelbourne's victory in Macedonia was a huge boost, I think.
The return leg brought crowds back to Talca, but memories of St. Pat's 10-0 aggregate defeat were never far away.
It's very important to the league not to get a hype, because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you. And unfortunately last year, and I mean unfortunately for Pats and for the league, and no one took any joy out of that, they got a good side and probably played poorly, whatever, and then they're gone, they drown. And that effect on the league was devastating for all of us. Just like the win again in Macedonia was brilliant for the league.
When you see a team go away, it sets a standard for everyone else. And it was a fantastic result for Shells, and they deserved it, and they've applied themselves brilliant with the week's training in France. So it does give your players that self-belief that it's possible, because they've proven it's possible. So then when you prepare, you're a lot more positive preparing for your games. Where teams would have went away and been happy with a draw. And, you know, you aren't gone away and you're happy with a draw. But when you see the achievement of Shelbourne in a very difficult situation, it gives you a great heart. And when we went to Aberdeen, we went to goal then, it would have been quite easy to sit back and say, well, no one's going to shame us 1-0 in Aberdeen. But we didn't. We upped the ante and we got the equaliser, and then we upped it again and got the winner. So, you know, it did have a bearing on our preparation and application to the games in Europe.
For Bohemians to beat Aberdeen, and there was this kind of bogey thing about beating a British team. We'd only ever, you know, a team from this country had only ever once beaten a British team before, and that was a Welsh side, and Cork City made pretty heavy going to that. You know, to beat Scottish Premier Division opposition was recognised widely as being an achievement, and I think, yeah, there was really a sense then that night that yeah, it isn't just a one-off, it isn't just a fluke, that maybe there's something beginning to happen here.
But not for Cork City, who lost out to Lausanne. While Shelbourne stuttered after 2 minutes against Rosenborg.
The first two goals were a disaster. You don't go against a top-class side and give them 2 goals in 20 minutes and expect to survive. It takes too much. We've done as best we can, but that was the disappointing part. We were poor at what we're normally good at.
I think a lot of people there would have thought, though, in those first 20 minutes when they found themselves 2-0 down, that this is going to be this could be a real problem here. But very quickly Shelbourne showed signs of fighting their way back into it. Very quickly they got onto terms in the game. They could easily have come out of that game with a 2-2 draw instead of losing a 3-1. They tired a bit the last few minutes and conceded a goal. But you know, it was a very creditable performance overall, and it's not just, you know, talking about them being plucky. It was more to it than that.
No, I felt Shelbourne's second half performance against Rosenborg was absolutely brilliant. Their first half performance was a little bit negative, and you know, I would have been exactly in the same mindset as Dermot. But when they did go at them and have belief in themselves, they could have got a lot more out of the game. So I felt, you know, let's get rid of this inferiority complex and go at teams, and we did do that.
That Wednesday night was the best feeling I've ever had playing in Ireland. I know I played in Oriel Park when it was packed against Celtic, but that feeling because there were so many neutrals who were cheering for the League of Ireland, and that's a night now that's etched in my memory. I don't think I'll ever forget it.
Shells followed up with the surprise 1-1 draw in Norway. Back at Talca, the party mood continued for Bowes' second leg against Aberdeen.
It was great to look into the crowd, so Shamrock Rovers, Shelbourne, Bray, even there was a Kilkenny banner there, you know, it was absolutely brilliant. And it was great to bring the whole Aircom League together, and even listening on the commentary, Don Reardon was saying, we done this and we done that, and even Don felt, you know, the pride of the league rather than, you know, his Galway and my Bohemians, and that was fantastic. Great lift for everybody.
Roddy, finally going into the first round proper tomorrow, who would you like to see drawn against?
I don't care. For the players, I'd like to see, you know, a club like Celtic because they deserve when we were drawn against Kaiserslautern. I was a little bit disappointed because I would have liked for the players to get Celtic or Chelsea, you know, because it would have been nice for the supporters of Dublin. Then when I sat down and assessed the Kaiserslautern situation and looked at them, they weren't a team. They didn't play as a team, they played as individuals. And I really felt, you know, we could get something out of it. When the fixture was changed to Dublin rather than away first, I was bitterly disappointed. But, you know, I understood the wishes of the club and the financial situation that the club was in. So I had to go along with it, obviously, but I was very disappointed because I felt we could go out there and get something and come back and have another great night in Dublin and have a great chance of going through. Well, it was a windfall for the club, you know, but, I mean, why not be in the next round? That would have been a major windfall.
Bohemians had the option of playing away from home first, which would be seen as an advantage in UEFA competitions. They sold that right to German television because they were clearly, I mean, the only explanation for that is that they were afraid they were going to take a hiding out in Germany and that the television rights for the second leg would be worthless. So clearly that pessimism still lingers. We're not at a situation where clubs are going into these competitions going, yeah, let's go for it, let's take on a German side, let's put them out of the competition. But Bohemians very openly said to everybody is, we're going to lose this game, but let's make a killing on it while we can.
When we went to Germany, we knew it was a totally different ball game. We had nothing to lose. We were focused, we were concentrated. They learned from their mistakes. Without doubt, it was an absolutely brilliant performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much point in getting completely carried away about the results away from home. In Rosenborg, certainly, the Norwegians would have felt that the game was won and that there was, you know, I would have thought very little point in killing themselves. Bohemians in Kaiserslautern probably had more to play for. They were under a lot of pressure domestically. They needed to kind of kickstart their league. I'm sure they would have liked to won the game by a few goals. Still, they were losing some of their best players. Again, you know, it's dangerous to read too much into those things when, in fact, the ties are won, because in European competition, by and large, that's all that matters to these clubs. It's brushing the likes of Irish teams aside.
For Shells, Rosenborg showed just how far or how close our European prospects are.
After I saw the first game, it's certainly a lot of players playing for Shelbourne that could play for Rosenborg. So they have good players, and they just have to see the possibilities for Shelbourne. And I think if they are working hard, it's a question of time when they are going to reach a high level also in Europe.
10 years ago, if we got Rosenborg, we would have been favourites to win. Now we're not. And in that time, they not only would be favourites to beat us, they're now expected to play in the Champions League every year. For the first time in my career here, I think this is something we could, in time, replicate. It's a similar league to our own. Rosenborg are light years ahead in their own league and have now mastered the art of playing in Europe. Now, the word here is that it took them 8 years. From the time they started to the time they got in was 8 years.
In the short term, this year's European adventure proves the value of thorough preparation and better cooperation between Irish clubs.
We've come here 4 days before the match to practice. We get the training sessions Sunday, 2 training sessions Monday, 2 training sessions Tuesday. That's 7 training sessions. I can't get that at home. Keeps all the players together. We've actually been together now for the guts of 2 months. We've crammed a huge amount of work into that. Technical work that I hope will pay dividends even over the short term. If we keep doing things right, you have to get the benefit.
I would love to sit in Dave and talk about whatever and to enjoy, you know, the spectacle that we served up on the day and Shelbourne and their games. I would love to be part of that, and I'd love to be able to help any manager, any club, and I would definitely do that, no doubt about it.
Overall this season, the performance was very strong, and there is a basis to move forward on there, I think. What we've done this year is gained more coefficient points in UEFA terms than we had during the previous 5 seasons put together. But it's more what happens over the next 2, 3, 4 years. The coefficient is based on a 5-year average, and you know, if we can use this as year 1, if we can sit down in 4 more years' time and look back on what has been achieved to that stage, if we have built on it, then that will be the time to judge how much progress we're really making.
Outside of Talca Park this week, the River Talca burst its banks. It's difficult to know how many games, if any, are going to go ahead this weekend.
Possibly many people would have thought Shelbourne, easy home win, Longford missing a couple of players, and everyone's expecting to start struggling. But it wasn't that way in the end. Shells had to fight hard for a point.
They certainly had to fight hard for a point. It was a bit crazy league at this stage. I mean, the difference between the top, Shelbourne and Galway, who were 10th place, is only 7 points. And it showed on Friday night a 1-1 draw against a team they should really have beaten. But Longford, to their credit, held on for long periods against a lot of pressure. But Shelbourne only had one major chance, and that was Jonathan Priceman's shot, which keeper Stephen O'Brien did well to tip over the bar. After that, the best of the chances fell to Longford, and it was probably no surprise that early in the second half that Keith O'Connor got that goal. The ball was ping-ponging around in the penalty area, eventually landed at his feet and a stab of a shot in to make it 1-0. Shells were then clinging on a little bit after that, and it's only when the substitutes came on, Jim Crawford and Desi Baker came on towards the end of the game, after about 60 minutes, that they started to put more pressure on Longford Town, and eventually yielded a goal when Davy Byrne put one in the back of the net. But they could have actually got a penalty earlier on when Jim Crawford was brought down the area. A bit of a dubious decision from Eddie Barr, the referee, but he gave the penalty, and perhaps justice in the end when Stephen Gagan missed it.
Yes, I suppose, John, the funny thing about it was on Friday, Stephen O'Brien, obviously a teammate of Stephen Gagan a couple of years ago, and that probably contributed to him guessing the right way for the penalty. And Shelbourne's look, though, was in the sense that I don't think the penalty should have been given in the first place. Jim Crawford, I'd give him about 9.5 out of 10 for that dive. And later
in junior caps he won in 1977 by Liam Highland prior to the game with Shelbourne. Shells, who were looking to stay top of the National League Premier Division, got off to the perfect start. The Shelbourne midfield set up the ever-dangerous Desi Baker on the left, and his cross was tapped in from close range by Foran after Harps keeper Downey could only manage to parry the first attempt. 3 minutes before the interval, Finn Harps levelled the score when a Paddy McGranahan cross was turned in by Kevin McHugh at the second attempt, but was no more than Harps deserved on the night. Shelbourne then regained the lead 10 minutes into the second half, with Desi Baker this time scoring the all-important goal, a wonderful volley from just inside the area. But if Shelbourne thought this game was theirs, they were proved wrong on 77 minutes as Harps drew level when Alex Nesevich somehow managed to squeeze the ball into the net from a teasing Bradley cross. A share of the spoils for both teams, a fair result.
Kilkenny City and Galway United.
The table, two Bohemians. Longford made a giant leap up the table to join Shamrock Rovers in third position. Cork City remain on 20 points, that's just one ahead of the Seasiders. Now,
neck on neck on 24. At the bottom, the gap is widening as Finn Harps and Kilkenny fall away. In Division 1, Athlone lead on 38, 5 ahead of Dundalk, while Waterford and Monaghan are still in the hunt as well.
Well, Shelbourne went back to the top of the league last Friday in convincing style, a great 3-1 win against St Pat's, and they stayed top because Bohs didn't beat Cork the following day at Turner's Cross. It was a very impressive win by Shelbourne.
Twice Shelbourne seemed to be getting back into the stride that won them the league last year. They had a couple of draws, but Keeley is they're getting the groove back, and they're knocking in goals. And the two Baker boys, the fabulous Baker boys, seem to be doing it again for them. But it looks like it's going to be Shelbourne 1 or 2 in the league again this year, because they are playing with the same. They're getting back into the same consistency that they showed last season, and they're playing so good at the moment that it's hard to see anyone really touching them. Maybe Bohs, but Pats really weren't a match for them on the night.
In the end, it was a case of if Robbie Griffin had stayed on the pitch, it might have been a different story. He got St Pat's back into the game with a penalty kick, and then within a few minutes he got himself sent off. 11 against 11 might have been a different story. St Pat's fight tooth and nail. They went into the game unbeaten in 11 matches, and they have a really never say die spirit about them these days.
Yeah, we both saw one of the performances of the season already at Turner's Cross on last Saturday with young Alan O'Shea.
Manager Dermot Keeley resisted the temptation to make wholesale changes for last night's visit to Buckley Park. His charges, particularly the front runners, fully vindicated the manager's faith. Desi Baker going close after just 2 minutes. But in the 33rd minute, the champions got their breakthrough. Pat Fenlon's raking ball cross field, headed down by Richie Foran, and Desi Baker giving Matt Nelson no chance in the Kilkenny goal. Shelbourne continued to toy with the opposition. Midway through the second half, Desi Baker and Foran had the luxury of a 1-2 before Foran finished with some style. Serious questions, though, to be asked about the Kilkenny defence. And there was more discomfort for Kilkenny. 8 minutes remaining, a free kick from Mark Hutchinson, rebounding off the wall. Jim Crawford's looping header giving Nelson no chance. Final score, 2-0 to Shelbourne.
This season's surprise team
to the bottom of the table. And so there it is, the top 6, and the champions Shelbourne lead at the midway stage. Newcomers Longford Town jump from 4th to 2nd position. Bohemians drop to 3rd and Shamrock Rovers to 4th. Bray are a point behind, while St Patrick's Athletic move up to 6th position. So Ray Tracy, first of all...
Friday as Shelbourne and Bohemians renewed their intense rivalry. At such an early stage of the season, the result wouldn't decide the title race, but it was still a huge game for both clubs. Bows were full of hope, but they came unstuck after only 2 minutes.
Richie Baker, Brother Desi out to the right. Good ball through here.
Bow's decision to play with 3 up front had seemed a little reckless, although they almost got lucky when an under-pressure Tony McCarthy very nearly headed into his own net. Shells were in control for the early part of the second half, but the conditions became more and more difficult as the weather deteriorated. The champions went close to adding a second, but Wayne Russell saved brilliantly from Richie Foran. With time against them, Bohemians had to press for an equaliser, but when the chance fell to Trevor Malloy, he was leaning back as he struck it. That was perhaps Bohemians' best chance to draw level. And a frustrating night for the Daleyman Park side ended in stoppage time when they lost their discipline and were reduced to 10 men.
More fractiousness. And what's happening? A red card. A red card. It looks like Stephen Caffrey who's off. There's the incident, and yes, flailing arms from Stephen Caffrey, and rightly dismissed.
So 3 more points for Shelbourne. It finished Bohemians 0, Shelbourne 1.
You know, the lads have got to learn from it. It's not the end of the world. It's a bitter pill to swallow. I thought first half we were absolutely awful. You know, the balance is not right. We've no wide players, and it shows. You know, we like to play in a 4-4-2 formation, and we just can't do that at the minute. So, you know, you can't give Shells a head start again, and that's what we've done. It's just a mountain to climb. And in fairness to them, they defended particularly well, you know, as if their lives depended on it, and that was the difference tonight.
Fair play to both. I mean, the home team, they had to go for it, they did. Thought we defended excellently all the way through. Worked terribly hard. Had a few of them last year, and you know, sometimes you question whether we have that still on us, but when it was needed tonight, they were all fantastic. To a man, I couldn't fault anybody.
He joined them on 20 points, that's along with Galway United. Finn Harp's game with Kilkenny City was postponed, and both sides remain in the relegation zone. But at the top of the table, Shelbourne extended their lead. They're now 4 points ahead of Longford Town. Bows are joined by Shamrock Rovers on 26 points, and Bray Wanderers, along with St Patrick's Athletic, are just a point behind. Hello, Ray Tracy, looking at all of...
A plum tie with the likes of cup holders Shelbourne is what non-league Cherry Orchard and Portmarnock will be hoping for from tonight's draw. Shells comfortably made the last 16, courtesy of Paul Doolan, his brace securing a 2-0 win over Monaghan at Talcott Park. Wayside Celtic were on the wrong end of a goal fest at Richmond Park.
Last night, Stephen Kenny's Longford Town made the trip to the Brandywell. Here's John Kenny with the reports.
First entertained 4th at Talcott Park on Friday night, with Shells aiming to halt Bray's 3-month unbeaten run. James Keddy came close to opening the scoring for the home side, with the best chance of the first half for the league leaders. The second half, though, produced 5 goals and was played at a frantic pace from start to finish. Richie Foran, looking to appease his manager Dermot Keeley after sending off against Derry on Tuesday night, scored the first. A delightful cross from Desi Baker was latched onto by Foran, and his shot gave keeper John Walsh no chance. Foran then turned playmaker when his cross was controlled by James Keddy, and he made no mistake this time to give Shells a 2-goal advantage. Bray pulled a goal back on 70 minutes. Philip Keogh's throw-in was flicked on to Barry O'Connor, who calmly slotted the ball past Shells keeper Steve Williams to set the game up for an apparent rousing finale. However, Shells put 2 between the teams again when Foran scored his second of the night. Here his long ball out of defence found Foran, whose chip and looping header made it 3-1 to the home side. With 3 minutes to go, Bray closed the gap once again. Head tennis in the Shells area resulted in Mick Doohan grabbing the initiative and heading into the net to make it 3-2. The game, though, ended in controversy when a hopeful ball by Maurice Farrell into the penalty area appeared to be handled by defender Tony McCarthy. But despite the protestations from the Bray players, the referee waved play on, much to Shell's relief. The final score 3-2 to Shells, who at that stage had opened up a 12-point gap on the chasing pack.
The table looks Derry City are in 7th place on 30 points, as are Cork City and Galway United. UCD 5 points adrift, then Harps another 10 points behind. Kilkenny City firmly rooted to the bottom. And at the top, Shelbourne on 45 points after 23 games. Bows 9 points off the pace, but they have those 2 in hand. St Pat's are a point behind, while Bray Wanderers are now 4th, ahead of Shamrock Rovers on goal difference. Longford Town, almost leaders at Christmas, are 13 points adrift. Well, Ray.
For the visit of the cup holders to the Brandywell last night. And it was City, one of the few sides to beat Shelbourne this season, who went in front after just 20 minutes. Coyle and then Brendan Dillon exposing some frailties in the Reds' defence. Peter Hutton got on the end of Dillon's cross and it went in off Declan Gagan. Early in the second half, the holders grabbed an equaliser. James Keddy released Desi Baker, who had time to pick his spot. They'll do it all again at Tolka on Tuesday. Derry City 1, Shelbourne 1.
The FA side needed just 1 goal to advance to round 4. Eamon Falvey reports.
The late show at Tolka as Shells booked their place in the last 8 with the game's only goal 7 minutes from time. Pat Fenlon's free kick from the right found the head of Pat Scully, and a glancing header from the big number 6 glided past Russell Payne. The Candy Stripes almost pinched an equaliser with a sweet effort at the death, but Shells hung on, and the double hopes of Dermot Keely's troops remain alive.
And so the cup holders march on, courtesy of a 1-0 win here at Tolka tonight. Up next for Dermot Keely's side, Shamrock Rovers in the quarter-finals.
Well, elsewhere, Cove Ramblers' cup run continues. The Cork side